So we're back. So in yesterday's video, I showed you how to make applesauce and how to can it. So today I am going to be making apple jelly from the apple skins of yesterday's apples, and I will show you how to do that. We'll take that, we will put it in this pot, which I think is about 5 quarts. We'll cover it up with water and boil it and then let it simmer, for like 30 minutes or so. And these are the applesauce, the five pints of applesauce that I done yesterday. And this is also one that did not get canned because it wasn't quite full enough, but you can see that we've been eating on it already. So let's get started. Okay, so I have the apple skins and apple cores in this pot, and I packed it down, and it's packed down there pretty good. And then I just filled it to where the water just covers it. And then, like I said, we will put the lid on it, and we will let this boil and then simmer down on low for, at least 30 minutes or so. It just really depends what it looks like at that time. I want like a dark color, like what apple jelly should look like. So that's the process for now. I went ahead and I just took some masking tape and just labeled the applesauce from yesterday. I've tried different things in the past. I've done those address labels, and then after they're washed, it has this leftover stuff that's just so. Masking tape works just fine, but if you want to use those labels or masking tape and they don't come off and it leaves like a sticky residue, you can get that Goo Gone, spray it on there, and it wipes off very easily. But I just had the masking tape in this drawer right here, so it was quick. Also, if you missed yesterday's video about us making the applesauce, I will try to leave a link to that video in the description box, or possibly up in the card section on this video. But if I forget, you can go back and look on my channel for it. So, thank you for watching. Okay, this went longer than I had originally planned. I wanted it to just kind of boil for like 30 minutes, and then we'd go from there to see if it was ready or not. It's been more like an hour and a half because we got caught up with other things, and so that's fine. It can go longer. There's nothing wrong. But anyway, so the apple peelings and cores are done. They are ready to be strained, drained, and to make this juice into the jelly. So I'm trying to show you the color here. Can you see that color? It's like a brownish red color. Alright, so that is done. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off. Alright, I have my lids over here. They're not heated up yet. I have my half pint jelly jars in here, and a half pint is 8 ounces. So they are in here and they're getting hot. Okay, so the next step of this process is for me to take this, strain it in this pot, and then all the peelings and the cores I will toss in this scrap bowl, and then I will take this coffee filter, put it in here, and then strain the liquid again through it to help, get out any extra impurities and such. And then we will measure it and put in the pectin and sit it on the stove, bring it to a boil and all that, then add the sugar, and then, start that process. But this step right now is to strain it. Okay, so now we're just going to take this hot liquid and just strain these apple peelings and apple cores. going to take this, toss it in the scrap bowl. Alright, this pot is pretty full, so there's really no point in me emptying out that other pot completely. It's really full. Looks like some fell overboard. Okay, so I have finished dumping out all the peelings out of this pot, and I've rinsed my pot out. I have a coffee filter in this little mesh strainer. I'm going to pour this liquid through the coffee filter to get out any excess impurities. And I'm making a mess. Just letting that filter through. It's filtering right now. So it is still filtering right here. And I still have this left to do. So it made quite a bit. All I need is 6 cups. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and just measure out 6 cups and go ahead and can those, because for the I have 8 of the jelly jars in the canner over there, and if you can any more than like 8-ounce jars at a time, like a large batch, if you can any more than that, it can cause the jelly not to set right, and be like, runny or not like jelly should be. So I'm only going to can the 8 jars that I do have, and for that all I need is 6 cups of the juice, and I have well over 6 cups there. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour that back into here and then set this aside, and I'll make more jelly another day. But I'm going to go ahead and measure out 6 cups and get this jelly process started. Okay, so I have my 6 cups of the juice in here. Actually, I have 4 cups in here, and then 2 cups in here. I wanted to show you the color of it, if I can. Okay. See? See the color? Okay. Alright. So, 4 cups and 2 cups. So I have 6 cups of the apple juice in here, and I have to use 8 tablespoons of this pectin, and I have the ball pectin. So 8 tablespoons go in here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright, then I just take my whisk and whisk it all up. Now sometimes whenever you make jelly and you bring this to a boil, sometimes it'll get foamy. The foam, there's nothing wrong with the foam, but some people don't like to see that. So to cut down on the foam, you can add 1/4 teaspoon of butter to this. I've done both. I've left it foamy. Sometimes I haven't had any foam at all. Sometimes I've added butter. And I'm actually going to go ahead and add butter to this because I don't want to deal with the foam. Just 1/4 teaspoon. Alright, now we take this over to the stove and we got to bring it to a boil. Okay, so we have our apple juice with the pectin in it and the butter in it to reduce the foaming, and it is heating up. Okay, so I have to bring this to a boil, and I have to, bring it to like a rolling boil, and a rolling boil is one that boils and it continues to boil even while you stir and stir and stir. It does not quit boiling. So that's what a rolling boil is. So I bring it to that, and once it's at that point, then I add the sugar. Now, this is going to be an experiment. This is my first time that I am out of white sugar, and I did not know it. So for this recipe, the 6 cups of juice and the 8 tablespoons of pectin, I need 6 2/3 cup of sugar, of the white sugar. Well, I was measuring it out, and all I had was 3 2/3 cup of white sugar. So in here I have 3 2/3 cup of white sugar, and I decided to use the remaining 3 cups that I needed of brown sugar, light brown sugar. So I've been mixing it up, and that's what this is. So we are going to see how it will work, but we're going to see how it looks and how it tastes, having half of it with brown sugar. I've never done this before, but gotta improvise. Okay, the reason being is because I already have the pectin in here, so I have to do this. Alright, I have my lids heating up, and my jars, they're ready. Okay, so while this is heating up, I wanted to say a couple things. I said this in the last video that I made on the applesauce, but in case you didn't watch that, I will say it again. Okay, so whenever you're canning jars, the glass jars, always check them for any cracks, nicks, chips, anything like that. If they are not perfect, throw them away, period. Okay? Alright, second, you might see that some of my lids in here have been used before. I know that they do not recommend using the same lid over and over. Every time I use a lid, I put a little permanent marker mark on it, and I do that 3 times, and after I've used it 3 times, I throw the lid away. I've been canning for 10 years or so, and I've always reused my lids. I've never had one fail, but before I go to use them, I always check them. I make sure that they're not, rusty or dented. I make sure that the red rubber glue stuff is still attached to the outside metal ring. Anyway, so, and the reason I've done that is because when I first started canning, I did not know that you were not supposed to reuse the lids. So I went like 2 or 3 years reusing the lids, and it wasn't until a few years later I discovered that you're not supposed to do that. And, well, I had already been doing it and never had an issue, so I didn't see any reason why I couldn't. So, I've been doing that all these years, and I've never had a lid fail, so I just wanted to throw that out there. Alright, so this is starting to heat up, as you can see. Once it starts to boil, like I said, the rolling boil, I will dump the sugar in there and then whisk it, constantly. And once the sugar's in there with me whisking it constantly, it has to boil again for 1 minute and boil hard, like an aggressive boil, not boil over, but like an aggressive boil, hard for 1 minute. Then I will turn it off, and then I will start putting it into the jars and canning. So over here I have my towel laid out, my clean towel that I will put my jars on one at a time. I use this to get the jars out. I have my funnel, have my dipper where I will put the jelly into the jars. I have my bands over here, my rings over here, trivet thing to set my hot pot on, and then a clean towel to wipe off the jars and the lids until they're 100% dry. Okay, so I will show you what it looks like after I get the sugar in here, and once it's, well, I'll try to show you what the rolling boil looks like, but it's not happening yet. It still has a little while. Okay, I don't know if you can see this or not with all that steam, but I have a rolling boil happening. I keep stirring it, and the boil, it's not stopping. It just keeps boiling. So this is a rolling boil. So now I'm going to add my sugar in it, and I have to stir it constantly. Oh, sorry, I was looking at something. So then I'll add my sugar, and I have to stir it constantly and let it boil hard for 1 minute exactly. Alright, and since I added that butter, you can see that there's not really any foam. Okay. Okay, so I added the sugar, and you can see that by adding the sugar, it kind of cooled down the pan so it's not as steamy. And now I just have to stir it constantly and let it boil hard for 1 minute, and then the jelly will be done. Then we will be able to put it in the jars. Okay, so since I had to use almost half of the sugar quantity, since almost half of it had to be used as brown sugar, and this is the first time this has happened, you can see that the brown sugar has made it pretty dark, which is fine, it's just a color. So I'm kind of interested or curious to see what it's going to taste like. And I'm sure that once it cools down and gets in the jars, and the jars are sealed and they cool, it might lighten up a little bit. Probably not much. But anyhow, so we're going to see how this turns out. Okay, I just wanted to tell you that I took a spoon over here, and I got a spoon of this out, and it's cooling, and I tasted a little taste of it just to see what it would taste like, and it tastes like apple jelly. I actually think I might like it with the brown sugar, half brown sugar instead of all white sugar, because I'm not a fan of apple jelly. I mean, it's good, but I prefer blackberry jelly. But my youngest and everyone else, they really like the apple jelly. But to me, the apple jelly with the white sugar, it just tastes kind of sweet. but I myself, I prefer brown sugar because it's more, I don't know, I guess it has like more depth, or it's more bold, and I like that deeper, richer flavor. And so, although it's not like that, it is more so than it would be with the white sugar. You see how it's already gelled up there? Oh, that's good. Tastes like jelly. It's exciting. Okay, so it is 350 and it is boiling. So I'm going to let it boil like this, stirring it constantly for 1 minute. Okay, so I have my pot over here, right here. The jelly is done. It has, boiled hard that it needed to. I'm getting out my jars, my pint jars. I just take the towel and wipe off the rim of the mouth real good. I will just take this and fill it up. It needs to be filled up to 1/8 of an inch from the top. Okay. Now I gotta get one of these rings, or the lids, right here. Just dry it off real good. Just want to make sure that there's no jelly on top of the mouth. Get a band. And that one is done. It's ready to go back into the canner. And I'm going to do the rest of these. And then they have to, once I get them all done, they have to go into the canner, in the water bath canner, and they have to process, boil for 5 minutes. And it has to be covered, the tops of the lids need to be covered with 1 to 2 inches of water for 5 minutes boiling. And they will be done. And whenever you get them out, just make sure that you keep them away from any drafts, like air conditioning vents, windows, open door, things like that, because any sudden change in temperature, it can cause it to crack, cause the glass to bust. And it's also a good idea to, after you get them all on the counter, after they have been processed, it's a good idea if you put like a towel, drape a towel over them to help prevent any drafts. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these. Okay, so I have all these made. I'm going to put them in the canner and let them process. Okay, so these are the apple peelings that, we had boiled down. I just wanted to point out that they have lost their color. And that's supposed to happen because the color, go on in there. Sorry. I just wanted to point out because that's supposed to happen because the color goes into the apple sauce. So I have my jelly jars processing. And this is what I had left that I did not have a jelly jar for. So it was about another half pint. I only made enough for the 8, and it made a little bit of extra. So it's still hot, but it's already gelling up, and my kids and I, we've been eating it, and we like it. It's really good. So it is a little darker. Well, depending on, well, that's not going to do any good. Depending on, I guess, what kind of light it gets, it's darker. Anyway, Um, if you make jelly, out of white sugar, it will be lighter. And if you want it kind of like a more natural apple color, some people do add like red food coloring in there, which I don't. I did 1 year, and I actually did not like it. The taste was fine; it didn't taste different, but I don't know. I just like the natural color myself. So that's it for now. Whenever the jars are processed and I take them out, I will show you what it looks like. Okay, so my 8 little half pints, my 8 jelly jars, they are out of the canner. They are still hot, but they are out, and they have all sealed. All of these are pushed down, so these are done. Like I showed you a while ago, this was the extra, and it's still warm. It's been sitting on the counter. My husband came home early, and he tasted it, and he actually, he says that he agrees with me and our kids that half brown sugar, it tastes better than just the white sugar. I went downstairs, and out of our pantry, I pulled some apple jelly that I had made a few years ago. I just pulled this out so you could see the color, because this was made with all white sugar, and these today are made with half brown sugar. So there's not much of a difference. A little bit, but not too much. So I just wanted to point that out. And while I was down there, I just thought I'd go ahead and grab some blackberry jelly that I made, because we're out of it in the fridge. So that's good. Also, I had 6 more cups of the juice from boiling down the apple skins and cores left. So after I get finished with supper, I'm going to go ahead and make another batch of the apple jelly, and we will be done with the apple jelly. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.